Hello, my dear gardeners. I'm sitting here between the rains. We have very rainy season right now here in Connecticut. And I'm looking at my garden, and clearly you can see that it is fall. I see more and more of yellow leaves in the garden, and not only on my cucumber, which is finishing its growing season and looking quite unsightly today, but generally you can see that the garden is changing. Still plenty of blooms. My sedum is attracting a lot of pollinators, and lace flower is blooming galore with bumblebees sleeping on it, by the way. I have mixed emotions about that season. Fall is very beautiful here in New England with colorful maples. And our maple here at the back, we are sharing that tree with our neighbors, gets very red in the middle of fall. So that's added bonus to our garden. Fall is very long here in Connecticut, and I'm growing to appreciate this weather. I grew up in Ukraine, where fall is not necessarily very colorful. It can be very rainy and dreary, but here in Connecticut it's long, can be very warmish, very colorful because of all the foliage of the trees. So let's go and look around what's blooming in my garden. And right now, the garden is supported, the back porch is supported by sturdy, good sedums. I overfed them this year, and they have the tendency to flop to begin with. But because I overfed them in those pots, some of them flopped. So I'm supporting them with wooden sticks this season. Let's go and look at the pollinators and enjoy those fall blooms, the face of the garden in the fall. When I was a little girl, I used to go into a very open grassy area and lay in the grass, looking at the sky, looking at clouds, and listening to the sounds of bees and all other pollinators getting busy among the grass blades and flowers. So when I am in my garden and I see all these happy fellows here, it brings me right into my childhood. Agastache is finishing its blooming season, still attracting many pollinators. And this agastache, there are two perennials here. Agastache is short-lived perennial flower, and you can see why. It blooms itself out. And with this long blooming season, it finishes a life cycle very quickly. Here I planted agastache a little bit too close to my Olivia rose. Let's go and look at our Olivia rose. But Olivia rose is a tough rose, and it is doing just fine in such close space there. Well, I have to give her more space next year and plant these agastaches out a little bit further. They're clearly the back of the border plants because they're so tall. And here they loved all the food I gave to my Olivia rose. Agastaches are heavy. I'm supporting them with the help of sticks. Otherwise they will lay down here on the ground near my arborvitaes. This arborvitae is around, what, 2 years? No, 1 year in my garden. I planted it last year, and look how lovely it looks here. I really enjoy the shape. Never trimmed it. Maybe in the future I will start trimming this arborvitae, but never trimmed it. And look how lovingly it keeps its shape. What in the world is this stick here? What is this? Oh my gosh, my kids must have put it here. Okay. Now, what's happening with my raspberry patch? There is a very interesting development here. When I go look a little bit further at my raspberry patch, you can see what I'm talking about. So this area is quite unruly. I'm trying to get it tamed by that structure, right here, this structure, and it looks okay. But my raspberries do have very low survival rates through the winter. And if I find what raspberries are those, I will put it on the screen. So recently I was hanging out with master gardeners in the garden, in one of their gardens, and they had a raspberry patch there. Right away I noticed how strong those raspberries were, and they were ever-bearing raspberries. So I took 2 of them. I started talking to my master gardener fellows, and they told me that this type of raspberry is not for sale anymore in the United States. It is the raspberry from Poland. And this raspberry, the reason why it is not for sale, because it is very vigorous. And gardeners here don't like it. But at the same time, that raspberry produced such an abundant harvest that I said to myself, you know what? I don't mind that raspberry is very vigorous. I would be able to control it. So I took little raspberry twigs together with root system and planted them in my patch. So this is one of them. Not doing very well, but raspberries are such tough plants that I don't worry about them. So this is one raspberry from Poland, very vigorous one. And there is another one right here. I planted them maybe, what, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Here's another one. And by the way, today I was checking on them to see how the rain was watering them, if they had enough of rain. And I saw some foreign weeds coming together with that foreign soil. So that's a good reason not to get soil from different lots around your neighborhood, or even bringing soil from the forest or from the field because you think that soil is very fertile and good for your garden, because you don't know what weeds you can bring into your own soil. And generally it is not a good idea because of that, because of unknown seeds. And some weeds are just horrendous. They will colonize your area, something like bamboos or artemisia or what's the name of that, knotweed. They are just ferocious spreaders, and for people who don't really enjoy weeding, that can be a problem. So the best thing is to buy soil from the reputable soil seller, and they do all sorts of things with that soil. All right, now here, beautiful Rose of Sharon is still blooming. Wonderful. Very long bloom season, you know. Rose of Sharon starts slow in spring, but now when everything is calming down, Rose of Sharon is still giving us gifts of its blooms. Ferocious Receder. Oh my gosh, I'm just looking at all those little guys growing underneath there. Among my dead nettle, I have to get in and really weed it all out. Otherwise it's going to be a thicket in no time. This area here is brightened up by black-eye Susans. This is the time of black-eye Susans. Another plant in my garden, which is picking the show right now, is Sedum. Oh my gosh, beautiful. And you know what, right now we don't have a lot of pollinators out because I'm filming between the rains, but this Sedum is covered with all sorts of bugs. I do grow this Sedum in pots. Since pots are plastic, they stay outside. Sedum is very hardy. It overwinters in those pots, and I do lightly fertilize them. Well, this year, because I grew another plant on my porch, which is lace flower. Just look at all this flower power. This lace flower is green mist, so flowers are not very white, which is okay with me. They age into this very green color. And lace flower is clearly not a pot flower. Look at this. Literally, it just took away half of the soil because it's such a hungry feeder. So next year, if I'm growing lace flower, I will be growing it in the ground. But because I had to fertilize lace flower on a regular basis, probably every week I did the fertilization of these plants, I threw some of the fertilizing water onto my sedums. And my sedums usually stand straight as soldiers with only 2 fertilizations a year. Here they decided to flop, and I will show you it happened on another sedum. Right here. The top of the sedum is a little bald right here, which usually doesn't happen with it. So next year, low amount of fertilizers, not as much. This is Sedum Autumn Joy. Bacopa is finishing its growing season, slowly spreading here on the back porch. Calibrachoa. Alright, let me show you calendula. Calendula didn't prove itself to be a very worthy pot flower. It very quickly went into seed. A hungry plant, I must say. Was not happy in the pot, needed a lot of nutrition. So if I decide to keep this flower, I probably will throw several seeds. You see it starts forming its seeds. I will throw several seeds into the ground and see how this annual behaves in the soil. You see, flowers are very cheerful, but they are not as big in the pot as they are being advertised on the internet. So let me see, let me give it another try, one more try in the soil next year, maybe several seeds, and see how it will perform in the soil. Not much of the performance in the pot, as you can see. Lady of Shalott, giving us several of its last blooms. Let's see what's happening here. Oh, isn't she pretty? At the back, near my arch, roses are slowly getting established. They're still babies, but again, Black Eyed Susan is taking a show right now. A little happy jungle, I must say. Cucumbers are conquering boxwoods. Sedums are growing happily with my gooseberries, boxwoods and abavites. What's happening here? Now let's look at my vegetable patch. By the way, verbena, tall verbena, is standing strong despite of all the rain we got today. My rhubarb, I planted it just, a month and a half ago, was worried about it. It is growing. New leaves are being produced. Something is eating it, which is okay. All right, my cucumbers are not looking the most attractive right now, but that's the story about vegetable garden. Very often vegetable garden is not really attractive. Look at these guys here. Ta-da-da! Yes, yes, yes. Still blooming. We will still have little cucumbers here. Excellent. Oh, here's another one. All right. A happy jungle. I want to show you two more things here. Well, first of all, my bacopa in the pot. Well, it's not a pot, it's like a sack, a bag I made here. It has an opening on the top and 3 openings down here. Let me show you. You see, I made it. I sewed it myself, filled it with soil, did some openings here. And my bacopa really liked it. Look at this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to improve the design of that planting bag. See how this planting bag is overwintering, and I'm going to offer it for sale in my Etsy store. So if you would be interested to support my handmade business, I will let you know. Sedum flopped. This sedum definitely was too heavy for my strong fertilization schedule, plus it was lacking sun a bit here. So what I'm doing, I'm supporting it with sticks. Doesn't work very well, and I guess it's okay. Now there's an interesting development happening with my Katrina rose. Beautiful. We had a very good growing season for this baby of a rose. And what I did, I introduced little ajugas here. And ajugas are ferocious growers. So we were going on vacation. I replanted this ajuga here. And knowing how strong ajuga is, I left it there, freshly planted for the whole week to rely on rain. And it survived. So next year, ajuga will be growing here in these little spaces where I had to put treated wood for the rose construction. Happy plant here. And rose, Katrina rose, is being treated very strictly in a narrow shape. Look at this. You see here at the back, not a single stem is allowed to touch the wall. And how I do it, if I cannot bend the stem to go into this very two-dimensional shape, I simply cut it out. And I don't worry that my rose will be dead next day. Rose will redirect its energy and will climb where I let it go. Look at this guy. He is higher than me. I consider it a very good growth. All right, my dear gardeners. I'm going to see if I can do an hour of weeding between the rains today. But otherwise, have a lovely day. Happy gardening. And we will see you in our next video. Oh, just look at all of these happy pollinators here. They're just minding their own business, you know? Some people are afraid of them, but no. If you don't bother them, all of these bumblebees, they're just happy to go around their own business and look for nectar, and we can enjoy them. Our little hard-working fellows.